She was born in a one-room cabin in the misty hills of Pittman Center, Tennessee, where dreams were worth less than a sack of cornmeal. From those humble roots, she rose to become one of the most decorated artists in music history. Dolly Parton's journey spans more than 100 million records sold, 11 Grammy Awards, and a glittering empire that stretches from Hollywood to best-selling books and television fame. But behind the rhinestones and the wigs lived a woman of contradictions, a devoted philanthropist who once posed for Playboy, a country queen who stormed the rock charts with Rockstar, and a private soul who lived a double life for 30 years, creating a dazzling image so bright the world never saw the woman behind it. From writing Jolene and I Will Always Love You on the same night, to sleeping in full makeup just in case of emergencies, every detail of Dolly's life became legend, yet the truth remained hidden. For decades, she turned poverty into power and fame into folklore. But now the mask begins to slip. This is the untold story of Dolly Parton, the woman behind the sparkle. Welcome to the Hidden Star, where icons are never quite what they seem.
Dolly Parton's secret self. For decades, Dolly Parton's rhinestone-covered look wowed the world. But behind the glamour, she had carefully built a double identity that has only recently come to light. Parton was candid when she referred to her public image as a ventriloquist dummy in her 2025 book and in subsequent interviews following the release of her Rockstar record. She created this character to conceal her true self from the public eye. For years, people suspected that Dolly lived two lives, one filled with fame and spotlight, and another that was quiet and ordinary. This new revelation confirmed those long-held beliefs. Biographers and close friends of Dolly said she maintained this act because she wanted everyone to like her, and she feared that her true self might not be accepted. The wigs, the makeup, and the flashy clothes weren't just branding, they were her psychological armor. She once admitted that she slept with her makeup on and woke up at 3 a.m. to maintain her look, keeping her public and private selves separate. The Hannah Montana conspiracy theory even gained popularity, suggesting that Dolly used her signature look to disguise herself in public. When asked if this was true, she teasingly replied, "It could be." This split wasn't based on deceit, it was based on survival. It helped her navigate fame while preserving her independence. In 2025, the world finally saw both sides of Dolly, the sparkling star beneath the stage lights and the quiet woman beneath them. What a humble beginning it was for Dolly, growing up in the Smoky Mountains in that little cabin that raised a legend. In the peaceful hills of Locust Ridge, Tennessee, Dolly Parton's childhood home still stands as a living tribute to strength, talent, and Appalachian tradition. As of 2025, the site still draws tens of thousands of visitors every year. They take guided tours through the simple one-room cabin where Dolly lived with her parents and 11 siblings. Born in 1946, Dolly's early life was marked by poverty, yet it was also rich with music, faith, and stories that shaped her forever.
Faith, family, and folk practices were essential to her father, Robert Lee Parton, who worked hard as a sharecropper and construction worker, and her mother, Ava Lee Owens, who sang and took care of the home. The Partons washed in the local river and made their own soap because they didn't have access to power or running water. They turned hardship into strength. Dolly often talked about how she slept 3 to a bed and woke up to frozen sinks in the winter, but she never thought of herself as poor. She was always thankful. Her grandfather, a preacher and hymn writer, and her uncle, Sam Owens, who recognized her talent early on, helped her develop as a musician. The shack has been preserved as a cultural icon and now features objects and audio recordings that transport visitors back to the time when Dolly was growing up. It's not only a place for tourists to visit, but also a symbol of how a girl from the Smoky Mountains rose from humble beginnings to leave behind a worldwide legacy of music, charity, and hope. The glam that stayed put: why Dolly Parton never rode her roller coasters. Even though she is the face of Dollywood and co-owner of the theme park, Dolly Parton has never been on a roller coaster there. She has avoided doing so for both personal and brand reasons. In interviews before Dollywood's 2025 expansion, which included the record-breaking Big Bear Mountain coaster, Parton once again explained that she has never liked thrilling rides. She said she had suffered from motion sickness since she was a child riding the school bus in rural Tennessee, and even light amusement rides could make her ill. But the explanation goes beyond biology. A significant part of Dolly's public image is her iconic look: elaborate wigs, high heels, and meticulously chosen outfits. She joked that a roller coaster could knock off her shoes or send her wig flying, turning a beautiful moment into a viral accident. She said, "I'm going to have a handsome man mess it up, not some ride." Her refusal isn't out of fear. It's part of her plan to preserve the mystery she's been building for decades. Fans go to Dollywood for thrills and memories, but Dolly remains the down-to-earth queen of the Smokies. She often attends openings and events, but never takes the rides. Even when she's not on a roller coaster, her charm fills the park. It proves that charisma doesn't need speed to make an impact. The hidden tattoo talk. What's marked under Dolly's long sleeves? For decades, people have speculated that Dolly Parton's signature long-sleeved outfits hide tattoos.
Now in 2025, the mystery has finally been solved. Fans used to picture Dolly with fancy full-sleeve tattoos, but she has since said that her tattoos are much less flashy and far more meaningful. In interviews and excerpts from her book released this year, she explained that her tattoos are pastel-colored and placed in ways that hide scars from medical treatments, such as a feeding tube that left a lasting mark. Dolly didn't choose bold statements. Instead, she used butterflies, ribbons, bows, and even a small beehive to make flaws look beautiful. Because her fair skin easily develops keloid scars, which are purple and uneven, she gets tattoos to both conceal and express herself. Jennifer Sanders, a British comedian, said she saw Dolly's tattoos on her chest and underarms and called them works of art. They included angels and flower boxes. In an honest moment years ago, Roseanne Barr also revealed that Dolly had body art, lending more weight to the long-running stories. Even though people remain fascinated, Dolly says she's not a tattoo girl and prefers to keep her ink private, showing it only through sheer fabrics or honest stories. In 2025, people are still drawn to Dolly, not because of how shocking she is, but because her tattoos reveal her strength, creativity, and quiet nature, which defy the standards of fame. How Dolly stood up against Elvis, the royal rejection that made music history. Dolly Parton changed the way artists were treated in the music business in 1974, when she refused to let Elvis Presley record her hit song "I Will Always Love You" after Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, demanded 50% of the copyright. Even though Elvis was her hero, Dolly stood her ground at age 28 and chose control over fame. She later said that she cried all night, but her gut told her it was the right decision. The song became a country classic, and Whitney Houston's 1992 version for The Bodyguard became a worldwide hit. Dolly kept all rights and earned tens of millions of dollars over the years. In a 2025 interview, she discussed the event and said, "That decision bought me Graceland." Figuratively speaking, music historians now view this as a turning point in artist freedom, with stars like Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish citing Dolly's stance as an influence on their own contracts. Priscilla Presley later revealed that Elvis sang the song to her privately while they were going through their divorce, adding a poignant note to the story. Dolly's refusal wasn't just about business, it was also a statement of her worth at a time when female artists were often overlooked. In addition to her singing, she is remembered today as a savvy businesswoman and a champion of creative rights. It shows that saying no to the king can sometimes be the bravest thing you can do. Carl Dean's silent retreat from fame, the quiet pillar behind the queen. Carl Dean was Dolly Parton's mysterious husband for almost 60 years until his death in March 2025 at the age of 82. He was one of the most enigmatic figures in popular culture. Dean was famous for avoiding red carpets, interviews, and public events. Even though he was married to one of the most photographed people in the world, his avoidance of fame wasn't rooted in dislike. It came from a deep understanding of who he was. Dolly said in an interview with Apple Music in 2023 that Carl went to one business event early in their marriage and then told her, "Don't ever ask me to go to another one of these damn things." That one moment defined how they worked as a couple. Dolly loved being the center of attention, while Carl preferred solitude. This balance made their relationship thrive, and Dolly often said that the time they spent apart was what made it last. Her famous joke, "I stay gone," perfectly summed up a bond built on respect, independence, and humor.
Dolly wrote in her 2025 tribute that Carl was her anchor in a storm, and that he chose her over the world she lived in. Their love story, which was private and marked by loyal support, contradicts the notion that public approval is what makes a marriage work. Carl Dean's impact isn't found in pictures or news stories. It's in the quiet strength that helped create one of music's most enduring stars. The quiet power of giving. Dolly Parton's charity work outside the public eye. On stage, Dolly Parton shines like a diamond, but her most powerful work often happens when no one is watching. As of 2025, her charitable efforts have reached far beyond the public eye, leaving behind a legacy of kindness that is just as remarkable as her musical fame. Parton has quietly donated millions of dollars to support literacy, crisis aid, education, and healthcare through the Dollywood Foundation. Her imagination library has transformed the way young people around the world learn to read and write. It now operates in over 1,800 towns across 5 countries and has distributed more than 270 million free books to children under the age of 5. She has also provided direct financial aid in response to natural disasters, most notably $12.5 million to the victims of the Gatlinburg fires in 2016 and $1 million to the victims of the East Tennessee floods in 2024. Her $1 million gift to Vanderbilt University Medical Center accelerated research on the COVID-19 vaccine, earning her worldwide praise. But Dolly doesn't usually seek recognition for her donations. She often gives quietly or without anyone knowing, such as paying for band uniforms at schools where most of the students are Black and covering full college tuition for Dollywood employees. Through her buddy program, she encouraged students to stay in school, significantly reducing dropout rates in Sevier County. By 2025, her approach is regarded as a powerful example of how a celebrity can give back to the community in a personal, innovative, and deeply meaningful way. Dolly's kindness doesn't just make people feel good, it changes them for the better. She doesn't just give money, she gives hope, opportunity, and dignity, proving that even the smallest acts can have the greatest impact. The wig wall. Dolly's famous hair secrets revealed. Dolly Parton's legendary wig collection, affectionately nicknamed the Wig Wall by fans, was finally showcased to the public in 2025 through her fashion book Behind the Seams: My Life in Rhinestones. This gave fans a rare look into the artistry behind her signature style. The collection features more than 365 custom-made wigs, each with its own name and personality. The styles span decades, ranging from twisted bouffants to punk country blends.
In the late 1960s, Dolly began wearing wigs after realizing that dyeing and styling her naturally light blonde hair every day was causing irreparable damage. Colleen Owens, her first hairdresser, introduced her to falls, which are hairpieces. This eventually led to full wigs, which became her signature style. Dolly's real hair, shoulder length and curly, remains hidden under these creations and is not styled. She joked in interviews that her wigs are such a big part of who she is that she's never had a bad hair day, just a big one. The wig wall isn't just a place to store things, it's a carefully curated archive of Dolly's persona, with stylists like Sarah Nia Wood taking great care to recreate old styles for museum displays. The wigs, which range from Dragzilla to Chunky Monkey, demonstrate Dolly's sense of humor, creativity, and dedication to self-expression. The wig wall became a symbol of freedom in 2025, showing that beauty can be both staged and deeply personal. Why Dolly Parton played a silent role in the history of vaccines. As the world rushed to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic in early 2020, Dolly Parton gave a secret donation of $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center. This act is believed to have accelerated the development of the Moderna vaccine. In honor of her longtime friend, Dr. Naji Abumrad, she donated funds to support early-stage research led by Dr. Mark Dennison's team. This study played a crucial role in demonstrating the vaccine's immune response during clinical trials. While large sums of money came from government programs like Operation Warp Speed, Dolly's contribution provided flexible, rapid support at a critical time when every moment mattered. The nickname Dolly Drug for the vaccine spread naturally, reflecting the widespread appreciation for her involvement, despite her tendency to downplay her role, saying she just wanted to do good. She received her first dose of the Moderna vaccine in March 2021 and shared a video of herself singing a revised version of Jolene to encourage others to get vaccinated. After that, she never sought credit again. Her act of kindness became a case study of how star power, private funding, and public health can work together. By 2025, her gift had done more than fund science. It gave a human face to it, helping build trust between laboratory work and the public. Dolly's quiet kindness saved lives, proving that influence doesn't always need the spotlight. A song that changed everything. Dolly Parton wrote "I Will Always Love You" in just 15 minutes in 1973, when she was feeling emotionally vulnerable. The song went on to become one of the most successful in music history. She wrote it as farewell to her mentor, Porter Wagoner. It was recorded and released in 1974, going straight to the top of the country charts and earning Dolly immense praise. However, the song's true financial impact came when Whitney Houston recorded it for The Bodyguard in 1992, turning it into a global phenomenon.
Houston's version held the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 weeks and sold over 20 million copies worldwide. This generated tens of millions of dollars in royalties for Dolly, who famously refused to sell half of her writing rights to Elvis Presley's team. Reflecting on the song's legacy in a 2025 interview, Dolly said, "It was a gift from the heavens, and I'm glad I didn't mess with it." Since then, dozens of artists have covered the song. It has appeared in films and commercials, making it one of the most successful songs ever written by a solo artist. Its long-lasting success highlights Dolly's extraordinary talent in both songwriting and business. It also proves that sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful, written in under 15 minutes, yet remembered for generations. The honor she declined. Fans and political observers were both shocked when Dolly Parton declined the Presidential Medal of Freedom, not once, but twice. The first time was during Trump's presidency, and the second was when Joe Biden's team extended the offer.
In interviews and 2025 retrospectives, Dolly explained her reasons, which were deeply personal and stemmed from her avoidance of political involvement. The first time she turned down the award was in 2020, when her husband, Carl Dean, was ill and unable to attend due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. When the second offer came during the height of the pandemic, she declined again because accepting it could be perceived as a political endorsement. Dolly, who has always maintained a neutral public image, said, "I don't work for those awards. I'm not sure I even deserve it." She didn't want to be seen as supporting any government. Humble and apolitical by nature, Dolly believes in a larger philosophy. She wants her actions, not accolades, to define her legacy. There is no denying Dolly's influence, from the 100 million books distributed through her imagination library to the $1 million she donated to help fund Moderna's vaccine research. Yet she remains cautious about accepting honors that could distract from her message of unity. In 2025, people continued to admire her choice, proving that sometimes the strongest statement is refusing to stand on a platform even when the nation offers one. Always ready for the camera, the real story behind Dolly Parton's overnight makeup look. Dolly Parton has been wearing full makeup to bed every night since the 1980s. For her, this isn't just an unusual beauty habit, it's a deliberate decision rooted in preparedness, self-control, and comfort. She discussed this in her 2023 autobiography, Behind the Seams: My Life in Rhinestones, explaining that she began the practice while living in Los Angeles, where frequent earthquakes made her fear being caught on camera in the middle of the night. She wrote, "I'm not going out on the streets without makeup in case there are cameras out there," showing her lifelong commitment to always presenting herself with poise. But there's a personal side too. Dolly has joked that she doesn't want her husband, Carl Dean, to see her without makeup, saying she doesn't want to go to bed looking like a hag. Even though dermatologists warn against sleeping in makeup, Dolly insists she thoroughly cleans her face every morning before applying her signature look again. By 2025, this routine had become an integral part of her brand, symbolizing her belief that glamour is an act of self-respect and readiness. Dolly's overnight makeover isn't vanity, it's strategy. Whether she's home in Tennessee or touring the world, her constant attention to her image proves that for stars like her, the spotlight never truly fades, even when they sleep.
By 2025, Dolly Parton's fashion influence had evolved from rhinestone glasses to that of a cultural icon representing strong women who never hold back when expressing themselves. Her style, once perceived as silly or unrealistic, has been reevaluated through the lens of freedom. Fashion writers and pop culture experts now recognize her as a pioneer in image control. Dolly's outfits, her bodysuits that shimmer like broken glass, and her glittering jumpsuits are clear rejections of traditional beauty standards. As a child, Dolly admired the town trollop, a woman whose flashy appearance inspired her to embrace her own over-the-top femininity, not as a sign of submission, but as a declaration of strength. In her autobiography, Behind the Seams, she wrote that her style was never about pleasing others. It was about taking control of her own image. Her clothes, often handmade or custom designed, became armor in an industry where women were rarely allowed to be both beautiful and powerful. By 2025, drag performers, fashion designers, and feminist scholars had embraced Dolly's style as a symbol of self-expression. Her influence led to collaborations with brands that celebrated body diversity and country glamour, including a 2024 special line with Christian Siriano. Dolly's style is more than sparkle, it's strategy. It's about a woman who turned what others saw as excess into art, and what some mocked as vanity into empowerment. In a world still grappling with gender and image, Dolly Parton's style stands as a radiant reminder that power can wear heels and pride can shine. The untold story of her spiritual journey, from Jolene to Jesus. Dolly Parton's work has often overshadowed her spiritual evolution. However, in 2025, the release of her podcast series, Heart Songs and Hallelujah, brought her faith and spirituality into focus. In it, she shared her journey from country sorrow to gospel healing. Fans have long known her for timeless hits like Jolene and Coat of Many Colors, but few realize how deeply her faith has shaped both her personal and professional life. Dolly grew up in a Pentecostal community in the Smoky Mountains, where revival meetings and Appalachian hymns laid the foundation for a lifelong spiritual dialogue. In the podcast, she revealed that she often writes songs as a form of prayer. For instance, she said Light of a Clear Blue Morning was written during a moment of emotional release. Her 2022 novel, Run, Rose, Run, co-written with James Patterson, also included subtle themes of forgiveness and divine guidance. It wasn't until 2025 that Dolly openly discussed reading the Bible every night and her belief in divine timing. She explained that her faith isn't about rigid rules, but about a living relationship with God, one that has guided her through success, heartbreak, and rebirth. She also credited gospel legends like Sister Rosetta Tharpe and Mahalia Jackson for shaping her vocal style and spiritual strength. By 2025, Dolly's spiritual journey had become a beacon of authenticity for fans seeking genuine connection. It revealed that behind the rhinestones lay a soul rooted in kindness, gratitude, and unwavering faith. The day Dolly wasn't Dolly enough, how she lost a look-alike contest. Dolly Parton once entered a contest to see who could look the most like her and lost to a drag queen. It remains one of the funniest moments in her career. The story resurfaced in 2025 through interviews and recollections. It happened many years ago at a bar in Los Angeles that was hosting a celebrity look-alike contest. Always up for a laugh, Dolly joined in without revealing who she was. Did she exaggerate her features? Her beauty mark grew larger, her hair got higher, and her makeup became even louder. She sashayed across the stage with a group of drag queens who had spent weeks perfecting their Dolly acts. When it was Dolly's turn, she received the fewest cheers of the night, meaning she didn't win. In a 2025 radio interview, she recalled the story with laughter. "They thought I was just a short gay guy trying too hard." Reportedly, her stylist, who had convinced her to enter, was the only one who cheered for her. Dolly's loss didn't bruise her ego. Instead, she saw it as a celebration of her fame and the joy she had inspired in performers around the world. She later joked, "It's a good thing I was born a girl or I'd be a drag queen." The story has since become a fan favorite, proving that even the real Dolly Parton can't outshine the love and flair she's inspired in others. Her trash-to-class philosophy that won the world's heart. By 2025, Dolly's trash-to-class attitude had become a global symbol of transformation, sustainability, and self-worth. The phrase was first used to describe her unapologetically glamorous style, one inspired by the town trollop she admired as a child, despite her humble beginnings. Over time, it evolved into a broader cultural movement. Dolly's love of wigs, rhinestones, and over-the-top femininity was never about vanity. It was her way of reclaiming her identity, turning what others considered cheap into something strong, confident, and unapologetically beautiful.
In her 2023 autobiography, Behind the Seams, she wrote, "I took what they laughed at and made it shine." By 2025, the phrase had been adopted by fashion schools and social justice groups to describe projects that support underprivileged communities by promoting creative reuse and self-expression. The Trash to Class mini collection, crafted from recycled materials and inspired by Dolly's iconic style, was created following her collaboration with environmentally conscious designers like Christianso. The line's debut was at the 2024 Met Gala, where Dolly's impact was honored with the theme Reclaimed Radiance. Her mindset also inspired educational programs in underprivileged schools that teach children how to use discarded materials to create art and clothing. Dolly's message reached people all over the world: strength, creativity, and the courage to shine in a world that once called you trash are what make you beautiful and worthy. There is one choice that will live on in history: Dolly's choice to stay childless. It became clear to Dolly Parton in 2025 that she had always wanted to avoid having children. This realization came after the passing of her husband, Carl Dean, ending their nearly 60-year marriage. Dolly repeatedly stated in interviews and reflections that her choice was never based on regret, but on purpose. She said that not having kids gave her the freedom to focus on her career and charitable work, such as her Imagination Library, which has distributed more than 200 million books worldwide. "I thought God didn't want me to have kids so that other people's kids could be mine," she said, echoing what she had told Oprah Winfrey in 2020. She also admitted that her marriage worked best when each person had their own space. Carl valued his privacy, while she loved being the center of attention. Their relationship allowed her to travel, act, and build a business without worrying about motherhood. She also mentioned in a 2025 interview that the changing world made her almost grateful she didn't have children, citing concerns about social pressures and political division. Even though she had 12 siblings, Dolly found joy in helping her cousins, nephews, and millions of other children through her nonprofit work. Fans in the media once questioned her decision, but now it is praised as an example of living with purpose. Dolly's choice not to have children wasn't a loss. It was her way of contributing to the world in her own unique way. The hidden musical history of the Parton family. Dolly Parton's record and docuseries Smoky Mountain DNA, Family, Faith, and Fables, released in 2025, placed her deep musical roots at its center. It revealed a rich patchwork of Appalachian artistry that extended far beyond Dolly herself. Fans have long been familiar with her siblings Stella and Randy Parton, but this new project uncovered musical connections within the family dating back to the 1600s, tracing their roots to Welsh balladeers and Appalachian folk traditions. The album, produced by her cousin Richie Owens, featured vocals from living relatives as well as restored recordings of family members who had passed away, including her grandfather, Reverend Jake Owens, whose Pentecostal preaching and storytelling inspired Dolly's early performances. The documentary series, filmed at Knoxville's famous Bijou Theater, featured rare interviews with family members and private performances that showcased the Parton family's multi-generational talent. Dolly shared that her mother, Ava Lee, taught her old mountain songs, while her father, Lee Parton, instilled in her business sense. Together, they built a home where music and resilience coexisted.
Floyd, Dolly's late brother, co-wrote Rockin' Years and appeared in several of her films. The project also served as a heartfelt tribute to him. By 2025, the Parton family's history was no longer just a chapter in Dolly's story. It had become its own tale of talent, faith, and survival. Their story proved that behind every icon stands a chorus of voices, working in harmony across generations. Dolly's quiet mission to keep her roots alive led to one final secret: the restoration.
In 2025, Dolly Parton opened Dolly's Closet of Memories, a moving exhibition featuring dozens of cherished and emotional items she had kept since childhood. The showcase gave fans a rare glimpse into her personal collection. The Dollywood Foundation assembled the exhibit, which was first displayed at the Country Music Hall of Fame. It included a worn paper waitress hat from her time at the Tennessee Pancake House and a rhinestone-studded guitar that Porter Wagoner gave her in 1967. One of the most talked-about pieces was a patched coat made by her mother, the very coat that inspired her song Coat of Many Colors. It is now preserved safely behind museum-grade glass. Dolly also displayed handwritten song lyrics scribbled on restaurant napkins, a wig she affectionately called Drizilla, and the size 5 heels she wore to her first Grand Ole Opry performance. One section of the exhibit featured a wall of Polaroid photos taken backstage over the years, showing stars like Kenny Rogers and Reba McEntire simply being themselves. Fans were especially moved by a small, worn-out Bible that Dolly carried on tour in a glittery bag for luck, she said. A jar of glitter she used before every major performance became one of the exhibit's surprise highlights. During the opening, Dolly remarked, "These aren't just things, they're pieces of my heart." By 2025, Dolly's Closet had become a timeless space filled with joy, hardship, and shining memories.
In 2025, it was revealed that Dolly Parton had quietly funded the complete restoration of the Tennessee home where she grew up in Locust Ridge, without ever putting her name on the project. She grew up in a small house with 11 siblings. It had long stood as a symbol of Appalachian strength, but years of weather damage and neglect had nearly brought it to ruin. Dolly didn't go public with her campaign. Instead, she quietly asked a local historical preservation nonprofit to help and donated under the name the Songbird Foundation. The teen collaborated with Dolly's cousin Jada Owens to ensure that every detail was restored accurately, from hand-hewn logs to the original stone hearth. A secret recording booth was discovered behind the kitchen during the project. This was where Dolly and her brothers used to practice harmonies. The cabin was reopened in April 2025 as a private retreat for artists and teachers, but there was no sign indicating its connection to Dolly. The truth came to light only when a local reporter reviewed property records. People admired her humility and dedication to tradition. In a short interview later, Dolly confirmed the story, saying, "I didn't want it to be a shrine, I wanted it to be a sanctuary." Her quiet act of preservation proved that love, not praise, is what holds history together. The weird job she had before she became famous. Before she became a worldwide star, Dolly Parton worked as a waitress at the Tennessee Pancake House in Sevierville, Tennessee. Fans would never associate this job with her glamorous image, but she dreamed even then of performing at the Grand Ole Opry. This little-known aspect of Dolly's life resurfaced in 2025 as part of a local oral history project. It showed that her early job wasn't just about earning money. It was a crash course in observing people. She later said that the experience helped her develop the sounds and characters for her songs. She wore a paper hat and apron to work. and she would sing to customers between orders to earn extra tips and build a reputation for herself in the community. Ruby Jean, her boss at the time, once told her, "You're going to be someone, but don't forget how to carry a tray." Dolly never forgot that lesson. In a 2025 interview, she reflected, "Every plate I served came with a story." The job also taught her humility and resilience, especially when she had to deal with rude customers or long hours. The lessons she learned at that diner stayed with her long after she left. Today, there is a booth at that breakfast place dedicated to her. It reminds people that even heroes have humble beginnings, and that's where the magic starts. The story behind her saddest song. You've probably never heard the heartbreaking story behind Dolly Parton's song, "Can't Find My Way Home." In 2025, Dolly revealed the history of the track, which had long remained unknown outside her closest circle of friends and family, until it was released as a surprise bonus on the special edition of her Rockstar album. It was originally written in 1971, when she was feeling emotionally isolated after her longtime singing partner, Porter Wagoner, ended their relationship. It was shelved for years because it was considered too vulnerable and not commercially viable at the time. Unlike her hit songs, this one was never intended for radio play. It was recorded in a single take at RCA Studio B, featuring only a piano and Dolly's trembling voice. The lyrics came to her after a dream about her late grandmother, who had raised her in Locust Ridge. The song speaks of spiritual dislocation and a longing for maternal warmth. Dolly told NPR's Mountain Soul in 2025, "It was the only song I ever wrote that scared me to sing." When researcher Sarah Nia Wood rediscovered the master tape, she restored it and released it, leaving fans and critics deeply moved. Musicologists now regard "Can't Find My Way Home" as one of Dolly's most haunting works, and an early example of the confessional style later embraced by artists like Joni Mitchell and Adele. The song revealed who Dolly was before the rhinestones, a raw, vulnerable woman unafraid to face her pain through music. Are you interested in discovering the strange things Dolly has kept for decades?
Later, Dolly said, "We weren't rivals, we were reflections." Their story changed what it means to share the stage, proving that true friendship can grow even in the most competitive situations. Who was Jolene in real life? What Dolly told her? The secret behind Dolly Parton's famous song Jolene was finally solved in 2025. It was a mix of truth, fun, and a happy ending that no one saw coming. Fans had long wondered who the seductive muse with flaming auburn hair really was. Dolly finally admitted that the real-life inspiration was a flirty bank teller who had a crush on her husband, Carl Dean, when they were first married. Dolly said that Carl would go to the bank more often than they could afford, which made her joke, "We don't have that kind of money." The teller's beauty and confidence inspired Dolly to create Jolene. But the name came from a young red-headed fan she met at a concert, whose beautiful face and catchy name stuck with her. Years later, Dolly found the original bank worker again, and in typical Parton style, she met her with humor and honesty. She joked, "You're not so hot now," and said that Jolene was broad as a barn and wearing Depends. The remark made people laugh and gained national attention. Dolly's funny response wasn't based on anger. It was based on gratitude. She said that Jolene inspired one of her most beloved songs. The story of Jolene transformed from one about jealousy into one about artistic growth in 2025,
proving that even a fleeting moment of envy can become a timeless piece of music. When people in Beverly Hills thought Dolly was a homeless woman, it was a perfect example of how unpredictable success can be. Dolly Parton once shared, with humor and humility, how she was mistaken for a poor woman while walking through Beverly Hills. She recounted the story on The Kelly Clarkson Show in 2025. The incident happened in the early 2000s when Dolly was walking along Rodeo Drive after a late-night studio session. She was wearing a casual tracksuit, oversized sunglasses, and a wig she called more mop than mane. A kind stranger approached her with some cash and a granola bar, saying, "God bless you, ma'am." Instead of correcting the stranger, she thanked them and walked away laughing. Later, she said, "I didn't have the heart to tell him I had $1 million check in my purse." The story resurfaced in 2025 as part of a TikTok trend where celebrities shared their most embarrassing public encounters. Fans loved Dolly's reaction, saying it showed her humility and ability to handle awkward moments with grace. People began discussing again how fame shapes perception, and Dolly's take was perfect. Glamour is a costume, not a character. Her story reminded the world that even the biggest stars sometimes just want to blend in. As always, Dolly turned a simple misunderstanding into a moment of human connection. Why she's kept a sacred stone since childhood. On her 2025 podcast series, Heart Songs and Hallelujah, Dolly Parton shared the deeply personal story of the small, smooth river stone she has carried in her purse since childhood, a stone she calls her sacred stone. Her mother, Ava Lee, gave it to her when she was 7 years old. The stone, found near the Little Pigeon River in Tennessee, was believed to bring protection and strength. Dolly's mother told her it was blessed by the mountain. Dolly carried that blessing with her through every major moment of her life, from her first performance at the Grand Ole Opry to the opening of Dollywood. Over the years, she developed a ritual, holding the stone and saying a silent prayer for strength and clarity before stepping on stage. Dolly never claimed to be psychic, but she believes the stone connects her to her roots and the spiritual energy of her ancestors. Fans were moved to tears when the stone appeared briefly in the Closet of Memories exhibit at the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2025. Dolly refused to part with it permanently, saying, "It's not just a rock, it's my reminder that I'm never alone." That quiet faith, symbolized by a simple stone, has carried her through fame, loss, and the many reinventions of her life. The job that got away. Dolly's secret love of teaching. Fans were surprised when Dolly Parton revealed that her dream job wasn't in music, fame, or fashion. It was teaching. On Heart Songs and Hallelujah, she shared that as a child growing up in the Smoky Mountains, she and her siblings would play school, giving each other chores and reading aloud from the Bible and storybooks. She admitted that if singing hadn't taken off, she would have become a teacher, inspired by her mother's nurturing spirit and love of storytelling. This revelation strengthened her decades-long dedication to promoting literacy through the Imagination Library, proving that even behind the glamour, Dolly Parton's greatest passion has always been sharing knowledge and kindness.
By 2025, the library had distributed more than 200 million books worldwide. Dolly said that for her, teaching wasn't just about giving facts, it was about changing people's thoughts and feelings.
She even mentioned that she keeps a chalkboard in her Dollywood office where she writes song lyrics and encouraging quotes on it as if she were planning a lesson. As part of her charitable work, she has funded teacher training programs in rural Appalachia and established a grant fund for individuals seeking to become educators. Fans and teachers alike were thrilled by the news. Many said that Dolly had already been teaching the world through her singing and kindness. Dolly Parton had always wanted to be a teacher, but she never pursued that career path. Yet every child she's helped learn to read lives on because of her dream. The week Dolly beat the legends, a single track that outsold the Beatles. Dolly Parton shocked both country and rock fans in August 2023 when her cover of Let It Be, featuring Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, sold more digital copies than any Beatles album during its first week, making it a historic moment in Billboard chart history. The song, from her Rockstar album, reached number 2 on the Rock Digital Song Sales Chart, number 15 on the Country Digital Song Sales Chart, and number 22 on the All-Genre Digital Song Sales Chart. The Beatles' original version remains iconic, but Dolly's rendition, which featured McCartney on piano and Starr on drums, was officially credited as Dolly Parton featuring Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. It marked the first time 2 former Beatles were listed as guest artists on a charting song. Peter Frampton and Mick Fleetwood also contributed to the project, though they were not officially credited. Both fans and reviewers praised Dolly's performance, noting that her seasoned voice brought emotional depth to the classic. It wasn't just a chart victory. It was a symbolic passing of the torch across generations and musical styles. By 2025, the moment was cited as an example of how music can evolve, proving that even legendary artists can still break records and redefine relevance. Dolly didn't just cover a Beatles song. She turned it into a hit that, for one remarkable week, shone brighter than the original. A record label that turned her down and came back. In a twist worthy of a country song, Monument Records' early rejection of Dolly Parton came full circle in 2025, when the label, now revived under new ownership, officially admitted its mistake and asked to work with the star it once turned away. Monument Records had rejected Dolly's demo tapes in the mid-1960s, claiming her voice was too high-pitched and her songs too sentimental to be commercially successful. They missed the chance to sign a young woman who would eventually change the face of country music, opting instead to focus on male rockabilly acts. During the label's rebranding campaign in 2025, Monument's new CEO, Mara Jennings, publicly stated, "Turning down Dolly Parton was the biggest mistake in our history." The label proposed a tribute album featuring up-and-coming artists, covering Dolly's lesser-known songs, with proceeds benefiting her imagination library. In her gracious response, Dolly agreed to sing on one track and even provided handwritten notes on each song selection. Their collaboration became a symbolic act of forgiveness, proof that even major companies can admit their mistakes and make amends. Fans admired Dolly's humility and the label's openness, turning a decades-old rejection into a celebration of growth. In the end, the sticker that once said no returned not with an apology, but with gratitude. The digital Dolly dilemma: what she thinks about AI cloning and being left behind. When Dolly Parton discussed artificial intelligence and the idea of digitally cloning herself in 2025, it made headlines. She approached the topic with both curiosity and caution. In an interview on her show Heart Songs and Hallelujah, Dolly addressed growing rumors that AI could create characters and voice models resembling her for future events or educational projects. She acknowledged that technology could help preserve her legacy,
but emphasized the need for permission, control, and emotional authenticity. She joked, "I don't want a robot singing Jolene without any heart." She revealed that several tech companies had approached her with offers to create AI versions of herself for virtual concerts and holographic appearances. She declined most offers, expressing concern over how such technology could be misused or distorted. However, she did confirm that she had recorded a set of voice and video lessons for the Dollywood Foundation. Interactive modules, powered by AI, but written and performed by Dolly herself, designed to help children with reading programs long after she's gone. These can only be used with her estate's permission. Dolly's stance reflects a larger discussion in 2025 about digital immortality and ethical cloning. She strives to balance innovation with integrity. She says, "If I'm going to live forever, I want it to be with soul, not just software." Her approach blends legacy building with a deep respect for the human touch. What makes her believe that rhinestones are more than just pretty?
In 2025, Dolly Parton confirmed her lifelong love affair with rhinestones, saying that they are more than just pretty stones. They are symbols of strength, identity, and stories. In her updated book, Behind the Seams: My Life in Rhinestones, she wrote that rhinestones were far more than a fashion statement for her. They were a way to protect herself from criticism and to honor her Appalachian roots. She called glitter fleeting fairy dust. Rhinestones, on the other hand, had weight, structure, and stability, much like the values she learned as a child. Dolly said she had been interested in them since she was young, drawn to their bold style and personality. She noted that rhinestones allowed her to express the same rebellion while creating a character that was both real and make-believe. People often thought her clothes were silly, but they became a way for women who felt invisible to feel empowered. In 2024, she collaborated with craftspeople to create a line of customized clothing featuring rhinestones for individuals with disabilities. This showed that sparkle could be both fun and meaningful. She also funded a moving exhibition showcasing how rhinestones have been used in Southern fashion throughout history, from church choirs to drag pageants. She said in 2025, "They're not just shiny things, they're stories you wear." For Dolly, rhinestones were more than glitter. They were a way to show pride, to prove that beauty can be bold, and to remind herself that sparkle doesn't mean shallow. The most shocking thing that happened on stage, and her perfect comeback. In 2025, country star Elle King discussed a chaotic tribute show that went awry, one that brought back memories of one of Dolly's most surprising onstage moments. At a 2024 event celebrating Dolly's legacy, King appeared to be intoxicated and delivered a profanity-filled speech that stunned the crowd. Instead of publicly criticizing her, Dolly reached out privately, showing kindness and understanding. King later shared in 2025 that Dolly told her, "Honey, we've all had our times. Just make sure your next one is better." What could have turned into a scandal instead became another example of Dolly's grace and empathy. Elle said that Dolly's response was the best comeback ever, not with a clapback, but with kindness. Fans once again praised how Dolly has always handled public missteps with humor and poise, whether wardrobe malfunctions or live technical issues. In a 2025 podcast episode, she explained her simple philosophy: if you trip on stage, make it part of the dance. The Elle King incident became one of Dolly's most memorable live moments, not because it was shocking, but because of how she used it to teach. In a world quick to cancel others, Dolly Parton reminded everyone that the best way to shine is to stay gracious under pressure.
Sometimes the greatest comeback is kindness, wrapped in a little sparkle. The letter that broke her heart and left a lasting mark. Dolly Parton revisited one of the most heartbreaking fan experiences of her career in 2025. It was a letter from a fan, written in shaky handwriting, left at the gate of her Tennessee home in the mid-1970s. A baby girl was wrapped in a blanket, and a note inside read, "My name is Jolene. My mama left me here, and she wants you to have me." This happened when Dolly was at the height of her fame, shortly after Jolene was released. It was both shocking and deeply tragic. Dolly immediately called the Department of Health and Human Services, who took care of the child. But the emotional impact lasted for decades. She later called it the saddest kind of love letter, because it showed how desperate and trusting some fans could be. The story resurfaced in 2025 in a BuzzFeed article about unusual fan letters received by celebrities, prompting Dolly to share new details on her show Heart Songs and Hallelujah. She revealed that the event inspired her to do more good for others, especially through the Imagination Library, which now serves more than 200 million children. Worldwide, the letter has become a powerful reminder of the possibilities each one of us has to make a difference. Even though she never saw the baby again, Dolly said she still thinks about her often. That heartbreaking letter not only changed Dolly's life, but also strengthened her resolve to give hope to children who feel ignored, abandoned, or forgotten. The 10 years she kept her band from knowing.
In 2025, Dolly Parton revealed a long-kept secret that shocked even her closest working friends. She had been dealing with a rare vocal cord disorder for over 10 years that made it almost impossible for her to sing. The revelation came during a behind-the-scenes segment of her show, Heart Songs and Hallelujah. She talked about how, starting in the early 2000s, she experienced vocal strain and micro tears that required quiet healing periods and specialized treatment. Dolly quietly worked with vocal coaches and ENT specialists to manage her demanding travel and studio schedule. She often arranged treatments on days when she didn't have to perform, pretending that her vocal rest was just personal downtime. Her band never realized how serious it was. They assumed she was protecting her voice because she was older or tired. Dolly admitted she was afraid that telling the truth would mean canceling shows or losing her fans' faith in her as a performer. She didn't feel safe enough to share the full story until 2023, after undergoing a minor surgery to address the condition. Her bandmates responded with overwhelming support, praising her strength and professionalism. By 2025, Dolly was fully healed. She used the experience to raise awareness about vocal health among performers and even established a foundation to help cover treatment costs for uninsured artists. Her decade of silence wasn't meant to hide anything. It was a testament to her resilience. The beloved singer proved that sometimes the quietest sounds are the strongest. Why has she already recorded her final song? Dolly Parton revealed in 2025 that she had already recorded what she calls her last song, a deeply personal track titled Silverline, which she wants released after her death as her final wish. Dolly recorded the song in late 2023 during a secret session at her studio in Tennessee. It features only her vocals, piano, and a string ensemble. Kent Wells, Dolly's longtime producer, shared that the lyrics are about closure, gratitude, and spiritual transformation. One lyric reads, "Walking toward the light with no fear in my heart." The song is stored in a secure vault, along with a video message Dolly recorded for her fans, thanking them for their love and support throughout her career.
In 2025, she told NPR's Mountain Soul that she wanted to leave behind a musical goodbye that felt personal and timeless, not just business as usual. Her estate has been instructed to release the song only after her passing, accompanied by a short film about her final years and charitable legacy. Dolly explained that she chose to pre-record her last song because she wanted to stay in control of her story, to ensure her final work would be both peaceful and meaningful. She said, "I want people to hear my heart, not just my voice." In true Dolly fashion, her final wish isn't about sadness, it's about music, memory, and meaning. If you've watched this far, it means you've enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to stay updated.